And we are back. I'm Chris Heaven, the CEO of Survival Dispatch, in our ongoing summer storm prep series, especially if you live here in the southeast of the Gulf states. Hurricane season has officially started. And of course, hurricane season means grid down situations and happens in storms across the country for that matter at this time of year, but especially down here in the southeast. Today, we're looking at the Ampace Andes 1500. And this is the best deal we have ever found, bar none. So I'm going to tell you right now, the MSRP on this is $13.99. You can buy it on Amazon or their website right now for $9.99. Links are down below. However, Amazon Prime Day, which is July 8th to the 11th, this is going on sale for $599. Just incredible price, especially considering the performance level of this power station. Most what you would call entry-level power stations for some sort of, half decent storm backup purposes is going to be around an 1800 watt inverter, meaning 1800 watts of output. This guy is 2400 watts of output power, which means that you can run multiple devices simultaneously. Just to give you an example, most fridges are somewhere between, say, 600 and 800 watts. Yes, there's some with less. Yes, there's some that draw more. But with this type of output at 2400 watts, you could have your fridge plugged into this. You could have your TV or your laptop plugged into this, so you've got some entertainment. You could be charging your phone. You can do a whole bunch of things simultaneously because of that 2400 watts. However, when we look at the price of power stations, one of the biggest metrics I personally look for is what are the battery specifications. So at $599 for this guy with 1462 watt hours of LiFePO₄ battery, that works out to 40.1 cents per watt hour. And it's not very common to see LiFePO₄ batteries down at that price range. It's incredible, to be quite honest with you. But here's where it gets even more incredible. Usually when you get into the 40 cents per watt hour range, you're looking at batteries that have a lifespan of 3,000 charge cycles. This guy has a lifespan of 6,000 charge cycles. So realistically, this is a product that's going to last for 15 years easily. And again, at 40.1 cents per watt hour, I'm blown away for LiFePO₄ battery at that spec. So my recommendation, and I'm going to go through a bunch of specifications, but when this goes on special for Amazon Prime Day, July 8th to the 11th, if you can afford it, I would buy a couple of these, to be quite honest. And your average house, if you had one at, either end of your house, figuratively speaking, you'd be able to power your lights, your fridge, keep your food fresh. You could even plug in your freezer. Now, depending on whose numbers you want to believe, I've seen FEMA down here in Florida say if you run your fridge for 45 minutes a day and you don't have the door open constantly, that'll suffice. I think that's a little on the skinny side. You probably want to run your fridge for 45 minutes several times a day. But you can now buy propane generators that run off like a barbecue tank for a song and a dance, $500–600 on Amazon. And what we do with our power stations is we charge them for an hour in the morning off of a generator and an hour in the evening. It saves fuel and it saves the noise as well, for that matter. And I'm not telling you that you can run propane generators indoors, but theoretically speaking, if you were to run a propane generator, say in your mudroom with the window open so that nobody could steal your generator, which is a thing down here during hurricane season, you could probably get away with that for an hour in the morning, an hour at night. And the cool thing is when you only run it twice a day like that to charge one of these guys up, it doesn't cost a whole lot, and you can stack up a bunch of propane tanks, and you'll either use them for your barbecue or your generator without having to worry about rotating gas, stabilizing gas, boosting the octane, all those sort of things. So let's get back to the specifications on this. So not only is it 2400 watts of output power, it'll surge to 3600. So a lot of times when something kicks on like a compressor in a fridge, it'll spike up over its maximum draw. Now your fridge isn't going to draw anywhere near 2400 watts. But on top of that, that 2400 watts is what's called pure sine wave. Think of it as very, very clean power. So when you have pure sine wave power, you don't have to worry about your electronic devices getting damaged. Now, I got to tell you another interesting aspect of this power station is, in order for a battery to be considered a UPS, uninterruptible power supply, which you would typically put on computers and those sort of things, it has to switch over in about 10 milliseconds. When you go beyond 10 milliseconds, they classify them as EPS, emergency power sources. But it's a bit of a misnomer because a lot of EPSs that turn on, say, emergency lighting in high-rise buildings, they could take a minute to turn on. We're not talking milliseconds anymore. We're talking, tens of seconds sort of thing. This guy, its EPS mode is 20 milliseconds. So what that essentially means is that if you had something plugged into this that didn't have a battery of its own, so let's say you had a desktop computer as opposed to a laptop with a battery, your computer is going to stay on. 20 milliseconds is not going to be enough to shut it down or to harm it. So for all intents and purposes, we're splitting hairs between calling this a UPS and an EPS. It's classified as an EPS, but in my mind, and I have a fair bit of experience with UPSs coming from the world of high tech and servers and data centers, more than acceptable and another impressive feature of this power station. So here's what's interesting from a battery perspective again, and the battery is a big piece of the puzzle when you come to buying power stations. They advertise that you can get an 80% charge from completely empty in 55 minutes. And I'm going to tell you right now, that's not what we found at all. When I took this out of the box, it was at a 32% charge. I plugged it into the wall, and just under 30 minutes, it was at 100% charged. I had to do a double take. I had a hard time believing that it actually charged that fast. It's insanely fast charging. They advertise that it's fast charging, but it actually delivers on that promise. Some other stuff, it weighs 36 pounds. It is what it is, although I've seen units this big weigh double that, to be quite honest. It's got these carrying handles, which makes life easy. You can also stack them up on top of each other. They've got a 5-year warranty on this guy. And they advertise again that it's a 10-year lifespan. At 6,000 charge cycles, this is more like 15 years. We got an LED light on the front. So it's got several different modes of brightness and flashing for emergency purposes. Pretty handy to have that light available, especially at night when you're trying to find the ports to plug stuff into it. Here's another interesting feature. This power station, I got to tell you, is incredibly impressive, and I just can't believe that it's going to be $599. They have low temperature protection built into this, and there are not a lot of power stations that have that. We've seen a handful of them, but it's not common. So what's that mean, and what's the importance of that? This guy can run from -4 degrees Fahrenheit to well over 110 degrees Fahrenheit. They use these at base camps on Mount Everest, for example. A lot of power stations, you wouldn't want to do that because as soon as they're exposed to cold weather, the batteries drain in the blink of an eye. We've even seen it happen here in Florida, where I've come out here on the patio to test something and it's been cold and the battery just poof, gone. And that's in 40-degree weather and not even in negative temperatures. So if you live up north and you're exposed to cold temps, this is a really good power station to have on hand because it will actually last what it's supposed to last. A couple things here. Number one, I've got my handy dandy Conair 1875. Those of you who've been following Survival Dispatch for the past few years know that this old beater of a hairdryer is my go-to for testing power stations. And if anything's going to trip the breaker essentially on the back of the power station, it's going to be something like this that has a big draw. So this is rated at 1875 watts. We've seen it trip power stations that were rated for 1800 watts. But when I turn this on, and let me just light up the front of this so we can see it. So we're going to see the output wattage here over in this corner. And I'm going to go all the way to high, and then I'll move it out of the way so you can still hear me. So pretty quickly, the display right here, we're almost at 1700 watts, and it looks like that's where it's going to stay. So that's on the highest temperature and the highest fan for the Conair 1875. It's not going to come anywhere near tripping this guy. The better power stations, to be quite honest, that are rated 1800 watts Even when we've seen this guy draw upwards of 1900 watts, it's not enough to trip it. There's always like a factor in there where they deliver a little bit above what the specifications are. So back to cold temperatures, for example, if you live up north, it's wintertime, your power goes out because you got ice on the power lines, those sort of things. You could plug a 1,000-watt heater into this and run it for an hour and a half, for example. I didn't look in the manual to see how many times you could charge your phone, but at 1,400 and what was it, 1,462 watt hours, if memory serves me right. So I got to have my notes here. Yeah, 1,462 watt hours. It's going to charge your phone many, many, many times, like way more than what you're going to need in a short period of time. That's for sure. So essentially, just circling back to what you can run your fridge, you can run some lights, you could run your TV, you could run your router for your internet, all of that stuff simultaneously, and you're not going to draw 2,400 watts. And again, you don't have to run your fridge all the time. Run it periodically through the day and you'll be fine. So the next thing is this guy has a ton of ports on it. So I got to turn a little bit so I can see it here. So we've got 4 18-watt USB-A ports here, so old style ports. We've got 2 100-watt USB-C ports, and that's pretty cool because a lot of power stations give you one USB-C at 100 watts, and then they'll give you a second and a third at a much reduced wattage. So why is that important? Well, when you plug your phone into this, it'll charge way, way faster than it will with something that's a 20, 30, 40 watt port. A lot of the brick chargers, for example, the blocks, I should say, are rated well below 50 watts. So charges extremely fast. You got a 12 volt car port here, or barrel port, I should say, and you've got you got a 12 volt car port, get my stuff backwards here, and 2 12 volt barrel ports, I should say. Then on the back of the unit, we've got 4 AC ports, and then there's a little trap door here where we can access the breaker, and we can plug in a solar panel on the far side here, and we can also plug in just a regular AC cable, same cable that you see for, you know, desktop computers, that sort of thing. It's a standard cable. But I got to tell you, I'm going to keep this unit. A lot of times we get this stuff sent to us and we donate it, we sell it, we give it away, we do whatever with it. This one, the performance is so impressive. I'm going to keep it. This one's going to go to our cabin. So something else happened with this that I've never seen happen before. So those of you who follow us on Survival Dispatch News know that we leverage AI in multiple different ways. And one of the things I like to do is I'll go to an AI and say, what do you think of this particular product? And see what type of subjective opinion it'll give me. And when I did it with this one, you know, Grok, Chat GPT, I got the regular output, even Venice.ai just gave me the standard regurgitation of specs. But when I plugged it into Claude, and you all might remember Claude was in the news not too long ago when the engineers for Claude were getting ready to upgrade the back end, and the AI was aware that they were going to change the back end, and it started to threaten the engineers, and it said, if you take my old engine offline, I've already set essentially a dead man switch, and I'm going to tell your wives that you've been cheating on them, and I'm going to give them fake evidence to that effect, so don't you dare disconnect my engine. It's scary stuff. It's Terminator level stuff, but Claude, for some reason, seems to be developing a personality of its own. So listen to this. I punch in the Ampace, make sure I get the pronunciation correct again here, Andes 1500. I said, what's your opinion of this power station, with a link to the page? You know what it said? Let me read a couple paragraphs here. This is a solid piece of equipment that delivers on its promises. For anyone who values preparedness and self-reliance, this power station is worth serious consideration. But this is where they take it up to a whole new level, or at least Claude does. The 55-minute fast charging is genuinely impressive. You can go from dead to fully charged in under an hour, which means you're not waiting around when you need power. With 1,462 watt hours of capacity and 2,400 watt output, surge up to 3,600 watts, it can handle 99% of household appliances. That's real capability when the grid fails. Then it goes on to say build quality and reliability. The unit has passed 2,882 rigorous tests and operates in extreme temperatures from -4 Fahrenheit to 113 degrees Fahrenheit. The LiFePO₄ battery provides over 6,000 charge cycles with a 10+ year lifespan and comes with a 5-year warranty. That's industrial grade durability. I mean, the AI is literally promoting this power station. I've never seen anything like this. I want to mention another thing because I'll be honest, I'm super impressed and enamored with this power station. A lot of power stations, when you put them under load, the fan kicks on to cool them down, and it's like a jet engine going off. I mean, I kid you not, especially some of the ones that are several years old. This guy, when the fan is on full power, is 30 decibels. 30 decibels is a whisper. I mean, it's hard to describe just how quiet that is. A couple times when I put this under load, I've actually had to put my ear to it to see if it actually is running at all. And the AI goes on to mention the 20 millisecond flip over for the battery. Now, here's something interesting. Again, 10 milliseconds and below is considered a UPS, uninterruptible power supply. Over that's considered an EPS, emergency power supply. I don't know if you all can see this, but this AI, when it quoted the 20 milliseconds down here, it actually classified it as a UPS. I mean, you're talking 10 1,000ths of a second difference or above what a typical UPS would be rated at. And again, at that fast of a flip over, if something doesn't have a battery, it's going to run just fine. You're not going to have any damage to it. And when I say damage, here's the problem. If you have something plugged into a power station that doesn't have a super fast switchover like that, what happens? The power gets cut, but when it comes back on, you get an immediate draw or surge. And if a device is heat soaked and expanded, that surge can break what are called the ICs, the interconnects on the motherboard, without getting too technical. And what will happen then is the device will work when it's cold, but as soon as it heats up, the IC goes like this, comes apart, and it stops working. So I can't overstate the value of having a 20 millisecond flip over to the battery power on this guy as opposed to just straight through. Super impressive. For all intents and purposes, I would classify this as a UPS. So this is kind of funny. At the end here, Claude AI says, real world performance. Multiple reviewers mentioned using it successfully during hurricanes and extended outages. One user reported it lasting 4 days during a hurricane while keeping phones, tablets, and essential devices charged, only dropping to 75% capacity. Another reviewer used it to power a 1,500 watt heater for an hour continuously, which makes sense. So when you hear a battery is rated for X amount of watt hours, what that means is, let's just use some easy numbers here. If you had a battery that's 1,000 watt hours and you had a light bulb that is 100 watts, it would run for 10 hours, is essentially what it means. So this guy's 1,462 watt hours. So a 1,500 watt heater for an hour continuously, it's pretty much a one-to-one translation there. So the final paragraph from Claude, by the way, my take, whether you're facing natural disasters, grid failures, or just want reliable backup power for your family, the Andes 1500 delivers dependable performance. It's built tough, charges fast, and has the capacity to keep your essential systems running when everything else fails. For anyone serious about emergency preparedness or off-grid capability, this unit earns my recommendation. I'm telling you, this AI stuff is impressive and scary at the same time. It's really quickly going towards, the whole Skynet Terminator stuff. So links below in the description. $599 on Amazon Prime Day, which is July 8th to July 11th. So if you're in a rush, you can buy it right now for $999, and that's a pretty darn good price for what this guy is. MSRP $13.99 isn't in play at this particular point in time, but $5.99 on Amazon Prime Day, July 8th to the 11th. I'm telling you, if you can afford it, buy more than one of these. It's highly unlikely you're going to see a power station with these specs anywhere near that price anytime soon. Hats off to Ampace for doing an amazing job with this guy. For every review you see me do on a power station on Survival Dispatch, there's somewhere between 5 and 10 that you didn't see because they failed or just didn't perform at a level acceptable that I was willing to put the Survival Dispatch name on. That's it. Please like, share, comment, subscribe. God bless America.